I'll just wait for this.
It's not very long.
Oh, it's time.
Okay.
Great. Welcome, everyone. We are back in open session, and we'll start with our public hearings and presentations to or by the board with questions from the floor. At this time, any person wishing to speak on any question previously discussed through administrative channels and not on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation to the board. Please state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations on agenda items. Any person wishing to speak on items on the agenda will be granted 5 minutes to make a presentation. Please state your name for the record. And seeing none, we'll move to the reorganization and acceptance of election results. The district had 3 open seats for a 3-year position director. The board will certify the election results for these positions. The board will also certify the results for the Proposition R31-2020 bond issue. We're going to start with comments of appreciation from Mr. Froelich.
From you.
Could be for or from. For or from.
Been a great 9-year growing experience for me. Gotten to know some great people. Learned more than I really realized that I would by a long shot. I'm very much at peace moving on, but we'll miss all of you. And the district is in great hands between the new members, the existing members, the administration. Couldn't be more proud of Rolla 31. So that's really all I've got to say.
You got me into this, just so you know. I'll never forget that. But I'm also very, very thankful that you did. I appreciate your service, appreciate the leadership example that you've given us, and we'll miss you too.
I want to thank you, Tony, for your service to the school district. You know, you are always positive and work to build consensus, a lot of energy, and that you brought to the board. I'm appreciative of that, and I'll miss your input.
Same here too, Tony. It's been, actually, I really didn't know you that well until we got on, came on the board. And so it was great to get to know you, plus just to work alongside you. You have a lot of wisdom that you shared, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I guess I just talk loud. Yeah,
There you are.
I'm without a mic, but
Stand on the table.
I knew that well before being on the school board, and it's been an honor to get to know you. It's been an honor to sit next to you on the board. I want to thank you for all the help you've given me, kind of learning the ropes since I've been here these last couple of years, and you're certainly going to be missed.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tony, I've loved it. You had said you always gave that business perspective, especially when it came to the finances and that sort of thing. Plus, you were always positive and concerned about the people, and I appreciate that, especially the students in the district. Thank you.
I have something to read here from somebody you might know. It's from your son, Aaron. For my whole life, I've aspired to be like my dad. I had always looked up to him, but you don't really know what you're aspiring to be until you grow up. He is the most genuine man I have ever known and truly cares for every person. He is the epitome of a people person and lives to build relationships. He is someone that you feel called to listen to and someone that leads by example. Since I can remember, he has always been a big part of the community. He has always participated in every single group, every meeting, and every committee because he cares. He cares about this community like he cares for all of the people in his life. I'm so proud of everything he has done in his time with the school board, and I know he has left his mark. More than anything, I'm proud to share the same last name as him.
Oh, that's very kind. Very nice.
We're not done. There's more. I've got a letter as well from my daughter, Erica. For as long as I can remember, I've been a daddy's girl. My dad has always been my hero and someone I've admired. He cares for people in his life in such a big way, and I hope that the community has been able to see how much he truly cares for the Rolla School District and the town of Rolla as a whole. He gives the greatest hugs. Anyone who's gotten to know my dad very well has probably gotten a hug from him. I definitely got that great love.
Excuse me.
One of my favorite things about my dad is that he can talk to anyone, anywhere. This is something I've always admired and something I've always tried to do as well. If we are somewhere in the Rolla area, my dad will see someone he knows and have a conversation with them. He really knows how to build relationships and make connections with others, and I find that very admirable. During my dad's time on the school board, he's helped with so many great things. My personal favorite is when he got to give one of the speeches at my high school graduation and hand me my diploma. I've always put my faith and my trust in my dad, and I thank him very much for everything he has ever taught me and done for me, and everything he has done for our community. There was no one else I'd rather have in my corner. Congratulations on all the work you've done, Dad. Proud to be your kid.
Oh, so nice.
And we tried to get correspondence with Lexi as well, but I guess she's in basic training, so it was unable to respond. So.
A little tougher.
Huh.
Wow.
You don't have to speak, it's okay.
Yeah. There'll be some interesting phone calls tonight.
Should we move on to Jane?
Okay, I wrote some.
Okay.
They say that the only thing that is constant is change, but there is one thing that does not change, and that is the commitment of this board and this community for the education of all of our students. Serving on the board for 15 years, I've seen a lot of changes, and it still amazes me, the commitment from this board, previous boards, and this whole community. I wish Pearl was here because I want to tell her what a wonderful student rep she's been. And we've had wonderful student reps, but I'm not sure we've had one that has spoke as eloquently and as materially as Pearl has. So please be sure and tell her that I want to say that to her. Shannon, Carla, Tony, I was honored to be your mentor. Taught you all right. Look how good they are. Anyway, I think that all of you are very valuable to the board, and you have so many deep questions and deep thoughts that have kept us all searching and seeking to do a better way, be better people. Charlotte, you're always very positive. You always bring a smile and have a smile for everyone on the board, and that's much appreciated. Jim, thank goodness I had you when I was president because you're the numbers man. That is definitely not even a skill of mine. So I know I've depended on you and the board has depended on you tremendously. So thank you for all you've done too. Brian, I'm so glad I got to know you. You have brought a lot to the board. You have very, very high integrity to me. You are a deep thinker and have made all of us question a few things more than maybe we would have. So thank you for that. Craig, Kyle, Julie, you all are very talented. You're very smart. And I think Rolla Schools is in very good hands with the three of you. You have a lot of challenges ahead of you, but you also have an extremely good board, and you have come from very good leadership. So you all will do well, and I'm certainly proud of you. Rolla Public Schools is in great hands. Aaron, we've started out as colleagues at middle school. We've been friends. We've been supporters. And let's see, a couple things that I have learned from you that I often think of are think beyond yourself, and it's a great day to be a bulldog. Let's see, Myron, Kendra, thank you for all you do, and Gina, thank you for all you've done. You've taken us to a whole different level with what we've been doing. And just my last closing thoughts are, anytime you want to harass somebody, poke fun at somebody like you've done now for 15 years, give me a call and I'll be glad to stop by the meeting. All right? Okay. I'll miss all of you very much, very much. You've been a big, big part of my life.
Well, I definitely miss you right here. Now, and by saying that, I'm not offending him. So, there's an empty spot here if you want to come back. But loved having you there, loved having a front row seat to learn from you, and appreciate all the mentorship that you've done of our board.
You will be missed.
Thank you.
You brought the perspective of a former teacher to the board. You provided us with great insight and a lot of whole realm of things. And you provided valuable input for us to consider. You also brought some levity to our meetings. You've been replaced in that regard, thankfully. So, I hope that you will enjoy your time and won't be be too concerned about us, because like you said, we've got a good board, we've got good administrators, and you've taught us well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Jane, I'm going to miss your fun, loving spirit. I mean, every board meeting, you've always just, it's been joy, and like these little gadgets that you have brought to us over the years, we very much appreciate. Thank you so much for just being a wonderful mentor. When I first came on the board, I had a couple of parent situations, and you helped me navigate through that, and I'm very grateful. I've learned a lot from you, and I definitely will miss you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think you've got a heart of gold. Your dedication to the school district is above and beyond anything I think anyone ever could. So you're dearly going to be missed. And I'm not just saying this. You're honestly one of my favorite people. It's really been a pleasure to get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Jane, just thank you for everything you've done for the district, and you mentioned I felt so blessed to have you for a mentor when I first came on the board. And not only did you share with me, but you share with others your grace and love and humor, wisdom, and just passion for serving the people in this district. And I'll always remember that and always carry that with me, and thank you, and I think you're fabulous.
I think you're fabulous too, darling. You're all fabulous. Great. And my buddy,
There you go.
there we go. All right, buddy. We're out of here. Right?
No, wait, no, you're not.
Oh,
When I didn't even get to say my few words.
oh, well,
Well, we did once today.
we did. We were together earlier for a little bit.
Heard about everything that you want to say. You lead with your heart. Somehow from, I guess, starting with the mentorship, we just bonded, became buddies, and just I've loved what you bring to every meeting. Other than your humor, your serious comments are just very well thought out, and you have a great perspective. The district's going to miss you. I'm not, 'cause I ain't letting you go, and we're going to have a little more time to hang out now.
Right.
So, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Wait. Yeah, go right ahead.
All right, Jane, and something else that's amazing about you is that your family is your pride and joy. and
That's
your
true.
daughters. So I'm honored to be able to read a letter from your girls.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, no.
We could all be present this evening to celebrate and congratulate our mother for her 15 years serving on the Rolla School Board. Our mother has an unwavering dedication to education. This is something she has instilled in all of us and now in her grandchildren. She has touched numerous lives as an educator. We all still get approached with stories from former students, always ending in, "She was my favorite teacher." Not only was she an amazing teacher in the classroom, but she has always been an advocate for teachers. When she retired, the school board allowed her to still pursue her passion for education, as well as advocate for her fellow educators and students. We are beyond proud of the many things she has accomplished while serving on the school board. Sincerely, Dana Pinsky, Ann Cardetti, and Joni Gray.
Oh, that was nice. They never say those nice things to me to my parents.
We gotta have that frame then.
Yeah. Oh, it's very nice. Thank you. You guys are great. Everything will be perfect because you guys are also committed to what's right and what's good.
Well, thank you very much, both
You're
of you,
welcome.
for your service.
All right. Now? Okay.
We gotta move, don't we, first?
We have,
We have to accept the election results before
yeah.
we leave.
can we do one little business thing before you leave?
Sure.
Need a motion to accept the election results?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
And
Jane.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Tony. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. I'm going to take some pictures.
These are beautiful flags.
I don't know if they need to vote on the journey.
The district has still got so many felt right, and it is.
Just do it to five. Yes.
Yeah.
He was hesitating there for a second.
We'll put it between us.
Black, 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 man.
Like you guys did that on purpose.
thank you all for the lovely plant too.
Yes,
You're very welcome.
I know the perfect place to try not to kill it.
Give it to Greta, please. She'll take care of it.
No, that takes out better green thumb than her.
And a cupcake. All right.
Hey. Aaron, do we have to do a vote on that?
Yes.
Adjourn? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to, I don't know how to say it, adjourn
However you want.
Cindy, I don't know what it, sorry, I'm not the Latin girl. But the current Board of Education will adjourn for the purposes of ending the board's functioning and permitting a new board to be formed. I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to.
Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Brian. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we are adjourned, and you take over.
Now it's time for the oath of office to the new members. So Board Secretary, Ms. Myra Reagan will administer the oath of office to our newly elected board members, Mrs. Carla Clayton, Mrs. Sue Daly, and Mr. Mark Sells. So you three would come forward. We'll administer that collectively. Congratulations to you.
Yes, welcome.
Okay, repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the school director in and for the District Number 31, County of Phelps, State of Missouri, to the best of my ability, so help me God. Then I need each of you to sign. If you guys want to go ahead and have a seat, I'll just bring them, or down here. Yeah, there's spaces.
Your choice. I don't care. All right, I'll take. You take the end. I'll take that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reagan. Acting as temporary chairperson, I'll now accept nominations for the office of President of the School Board.
I would like to make a nomination for President Jim Packard.
Okay,
I'll second.
got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Mr. Packard, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, item E is recommended that the board appoint individuals to fulfill the following assignments. And the first one of those is president-elect. Do I have a nomination for president-elect?
I'd like to nominate Carla Clayton.
I'll second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Carla Clayton as president-elect, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, Carla is our new president-elect.
Scooch it on down.
Okay. Next item is treasurer. We need to, is there,
I'd like to nominate Charlotte Jameson for treasurer.
okay. Charlotte Jameson for treasurer. Is there a second for that? Thank you, Shannon. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Charlotte Jameson serving as the treasurer this next year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that takes care of item E. We go on to item F, which is the committee appointments. So we've had some time to look at those. We're losing, first off, is there anybody on a committee that wants to give that committee up? I have talked to our new board members about serving on the policy committee. So Brian and Shannon,
To relinquish to someone to take that one.
okay? And is that okay for, okay. So our two new board members. So some of these committees do not meet or have not met, have not had a need to meet, but we haven't eliminated any of them because they may be in policy. So we need to fill the other positions. I'm good with the A+ Schools Committee because I don't think that committee meets.
Do you need a partner for that?
We need somebody for the crisis management team. I think that
Yeah. I think
Carla
I'm
will
off
take
of
your
that.
place,
Yes.
in place of Mrs. Jameson. But we still have a slot for somebody on the crisis management team. Okay, you've got experience now.
In a crisis, yes.
Okay.
Little bit.
The audit committee, Brian, you were on that. The treasurer really needs to be on that,
I would take Carla's place, I think.
okay?
Unless Carla wanted to remain.
Unless you want to remain, Carla. It's up to you.
If nobody else wants, I
I-
can say.
Between you and Brian.
If you want it, it's yours.
I'll take it.
Okay. The MSBA delegate would be, an alternate would be, you would be the alternate.
Carla.
Carla would be the alternate instead of Charla. Policy committee we've talked about. Special education committee was Mrs. Haskell. Do I have anybody who would like to serve on that committee?
I would be willing to serve on that committee. I don't know how much it meets. Okay, I'll serve on that committee.
Okay, you beat Brian to that. And then the residency waiver committee was Mr. Froelich, so that slot is open. And Dr. Creedy was on that also. Okay, is there somebody else that wants to say?
Does it meet too?
So we've been handling it
Case
almost
by case.
electronically.
Okay, I'll do it.
So Mrs. Udaley, at times there are people that are living in the school district, students that are living in the school district with someone other than their parents. Their parents reside in another school district. And the law allows for them to attend if their situation meets hardship or good cause. So when someone's in that situation, they apply to the district for a residency waiver. In the subcommittee of the board, we present that to you guys who tell us yes or no if you approve of it.
Okay. I'll be happy to do that. That's okay.
Okay. Item 10 is our mentors for our new board members, Mark and Sue.
I'll be Sue's.
All right.
And-
Is that okay?
Yes, be great.
And I volunteered to be Mark's.
Thank you.
So we'll have to determine a time when we can meet. So,
If they decide to meet together, and Jim, you and I want to maybe take turns being there,
okay,
so that there's not a quorum at that meeting, I'm happy with that too. Or
We-
if you want us all four to be there, then we can do
Yeah.
that.
so we don't need action on this? Okay. We'll go on to item 4, which is our consent agenda. A consent agenda is utilized by the Rolla Board of Education as a means of dealing with routine matters which must be considered by the Board of Education but require a minimum of discussion. All Board of Education members receive and review written information supporting the items listed on the consent agenda well in advance of the meeting. While any Board of Education member is welcome to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate consideration or discussion for any reason, normally, all items on the consent agenda are approved in one motion with a minimum of discussion. And tonight we have items A through J. We do want to make mention of some retirements on our support staff. William Grayson retiring as head custodian at Wyman with 39 years of service. Lucia Hart and John Witten are bus drivers, retiring, Lucia with 17 years and John with 9 years. So thank them for their service. 27, excuse me. Not 17. Okay. So, do I have a motion? Okay, thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Shannon. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passed. We will go on to new business. District Operations Steering Committee, Mr. Hanson and Dr. Dare will present information on reopening of school.
So tonight, we did want to discuss the process that the district is going through to try and make some decisions about reopening in the fall. And I'll tell you, that is what we're working toward, is reopening in the fall with C classes. So the process that we're looking here is how we're going to try to build our operational and instructional plans. So working back from that first day, which is August 24th, set by Missouri statute, when you start listing all of the things that need planning, you dig into just one of those, and it seems like the questions just keep reaching out further and further and further. And so the amount of planning that's needed to open on August 24th at times seems a bit overwhelming, but that is our goal to get there on 24th. Now, some of the resources, just to update you, that we are using. First of all, MOASBA, which is the Missouri Association of School Business Officials, has been putting on statewide webinars for superintendents, any superintendent in the state who would like to join, kind of outlining the issues, some positive steps to take, some legal thoughts about what reopening looks like. So Dr. Dare and I, is that better? That is, okay. So Dr. Dare and I have been involved in those webinars, and some of the ideas that you're going to hear tonight came from leaders around the state talking about good steps to coming up with plans to deal with the COVID closures. We've also been invited to be part of a community planning group to work together with the city, the university, the hospital, and other schools in Phelps County about what reopening looks like in the city of Rolla and what our role would be. And we very much want to be a part of that discussion because of the impact that we have with kids and families in this community. We've been in communication with other school leaders in this region, and probably region is about as far as you would go, and that's even a bit of a stretch. The conditions from community to community across the state of Missouri varies greatly. So to reach too far out, there are some ideas of school districts around the state that simply don't fit us because their situation is different. But we are in communication with other school districts in this region to make sure that we're not missing any good ideas. But what we want to visit with you more about tonight is the district steering committee that we have put in place to help guide our planning and give us feedback all along the way.
So, Dr. Dare, Dr. Williams, and I are leading this group, and the district steering committee is an internal district staff, and we have tried to cover all aspects of school district operations. And we sat down and started to make this list. It just grew and grew and grew because there are just so many facets of our district and so many people that need to have a voice in the planning for what we look like. So we ended up with 28 district staff participating. And I'll tell you, we told them that not only are you representing, the segment of the school population in which you serve, but you're also playing a secondary role because all of them are community members. Many are parents. A lot of them are working parents with kids in school, and the decisions we make affect them in many different ways and in many different roles. So we've asked them to look at this plan not only from the role as a teacher, but in these secondary roles that they serve as well. By secondary, I mean, I don't want to say that as a secondary role, but view it also from their personal perspective as a working parent with children in the district or whatever their role is in the community. We have tasked this group with providing feedback and input into our plans and asking questions and reviewing the items we've put in front of them and helping us to build the operational plans that would allow us to open in August. Just functionally, we are meeting weekly. So far, we have met through Google Meet with a group that large. We were not ready to have face-to-face meetings just yet. But we also plan some small group breakouts coming up where there are certain segments you may want to focus on one particular part of our plan. But we've had 2 meetings. We had one this morning, and you're going to see the result of some of the work this morning in a later presentation about summer school. So again, what is this district steering committee? Here are the shared goals. You went off there, Myra. Here were the shared goals that we expressed to them during our first meeting, and that is to develop a functional operations and instructional practices plan for the Rolla 31 School District for the 2020-21 school year. And we defined operations to be all of those things: getting kids to school, getting them to class, passing between classes, getting them lunch, getting them breakfast, going for recess, all just the movement within a building and what it looks like to get a student to school in the morning, get them through the steps in their school day, and then get them home at the end of the night. That's what we're considering our operations. Our instructional practices will be what goes on in the classroom to deliver the instruction related to the Missouri Learning Standards. We will have some challenges based on being closed. For the last portion of this past school year, we will have to address academically how we will fill those gaps. Instruction may look different, sharing Chromebooks, checking out books from the library, having a common pencil sharpener in the room, sharing supplies, sharing math manipulatives from one class to the next. We will need to figure out how we handle all of those instructional issues within the classroom. So we've kind of separated this into 2 ideas: operations and instructional practices, and we are going about it from those 2 different directions. The second goal is to develop contingencies should a seated school session not be possible or need to be stopped, should there be an interruption during the school year. So to develop alternatives for operations and instructional practice in anticipation of potential restrictions based on the pandemic. So we will have our plan for being seated and then the contingencies should that need to change. We did the very best we could in the spring to react to being closed very quickly with very little notice. This will give us a chance to put better plans in place and be able to deliver instruction in a little more effective way should we need to do that during the next school year. We did set some norms along the way that any plans we make would need to fit under these descriptors. Obviously, number 1, every student must receive a quality educational experience. We have students from very different walks of life in the community with very different needs. Any plan that we put in place must address, we must be able to meet the needs of every student that comes to us. that means that a single plan will not work. We will need to have multiple facets of a plan for how we will deliver instruction to students. We must maintain empathy and understanding for all. People are in very different places in their belief and understanding of what coming back looks like, and they have very different opinions about what that should look like. We believe our job is to build the safest, best plan that we can that meets the needs of our students. We also need to understand that not everyone will agree with every part of the plan, and that will probably come from a couple different directions. But we must maintain empathy and understand where they're coming from, and we must listen. There was a fear on that third bullet, the steering committee will not be responsible for the outcome of the plan. There was a little fear of teachers putting themselves out there in this situation and willing to be a part of the committee. But we never designed this committee to be the final decision-making body. Obviously, the school board will be the final decision-making body. The administrative team will have a role in planning this. The steering committee has a role to make sure that we hear from those people who are working directly with students on a daily basis, that they can provide input. That input will be shared with the administrative team. The administrative team's input will be shared with the steering committee, and obviously everything will be brought to you to update the school board as these plans develop. But they play a role. We didn't want to scare them off of being part of this committee by accepting too much responsibility for this plan. So we want to be very clear there. And this last one is just something for us to consider. We are trying very hard to be consistent all across the district from one building to the next, but every building is unique. We may be able to do something in the middle school because of the way the school is built with hallways and passing directions that we simply can't do in an elementary where there is one hallway up and down the entire length of the building. So in this, we didn't want to get ground down to a stopping point because we couldn't be consistent with something across all buildings. We will do the very best we can in every building, but we know that there may be some differences here and there. So that's really the steering committee. Dr. Dare has put together a lot of documents that the group has looked at, has built within our Google folder, the ability for them to give some input. Do you have anything you want to add to this process?
No, just I think, I guess the one thing I might share, we just kind of opened this up to start with just the process of looking at those big headings from the beginning. What does it look like for transportation, and what do we need to be thinking about? And so I would say the one thing I would want to add is that the steering committee has been great to provide the input and the feedback. They're asking those difficult questions, and what about this kid? All the way down to that one individual kid that they know about that has some special situations. So I feel like we've got a great system going, and I very much appreciate everybody's willingness to take a part in this, because it is not an easy situation to be in. It's very difficult to grasp the full picture. So very grateful for that part.
So later tonight, we're going to talk with you about plans for summer school. That was a topic of the meeting that we had today, and we wanted to put that in front of them because some of the things that we put in place for summer school are very likely going to be in place when we open in August. So we wanted their input now to help build that plan. So we'll share with you later a document that they talked through today. So that's the internal steering committee. Obviously, another group that we want to hear from is from our parents and community. So in your packet tonight, we'll be asking you to approve a survey. It was in, I believe it was an addendum to the packet that came out tonight. This survey is from Patron Insight, so it goes back to a survey group that we've used before. They've offered this to us free of charge as the ability to get feedback from the community. And the major themes of the survey, it kind of asks three different things. First, it asked, how did we do during the closure? And it asked that around academics, the work that we provided students in the community during that time, our communication and planning with the community, how we did communicating with our patrons, and food service was a major part of what we did during the closure. So we're getting some feedback about how the food service operation went and the quality of food. It also looks ahead a little bit, so that's looking back to the past closure. We hope to learn some things from that response so that if we find ourselves in that situation again, we will have learned good lessons and ways to be better should we have to close at some point. It also looks ahead at their expectations for the beginning of 2020-21. It may be a little early to ask about that. Things seem to be changing on a at least weekly basis within the state of Missouri. But we asked some questions looking ahead about what they would like to see us do in August of 21, or August of 20. Now, there may be a need to push out a couple short little pulse surveys along the way as situations change. One of the things that we stress to the steering committee is any plans that we build, understand that that's the best plan that we have at that time. We must have the flexibility to react to changing situations because trying to predict what Rolla, Missouri will look like in the middle of August coming up is very difficult. So we have to be able to adapt, and our plans have to be flexible. But we wanted to begin asking the patrons what they're looking for when we open in August. And then there's an opportunity for people to just leave open comments, thoughts that they have, and we'll be interested to see what type of comments we get in that section. So this is a survey, if you approve it tonight, that we will begin pushing out tomorrow morning. We will leave that open for around 10 days. We want to get that as soon as we can because we're getting further and further from the closure and sneaking closer and closer to opening in August. So we'd like to get that data back as soon as we can. So that's kind of our process. So we have some external groups we're working with. The steering committee is heavily involved in our planning, along with the administrative team and the school board, and then we have the survey piece to get some of the community feedback. And I'd be happy to take any questions or comments and then ask for your approval of the survey as well.
I've got a couple of things.
Yes, sir.
So it's kind of funny to see how this is developed because we did this, 3 months ago with the hospital and we kind of saw how things develop. A couple of problems we ran into was things do change quickly, and on a day-to-day basis, something might change. One of the big problems we had was getting our new plan or new goal, whatever, communicated down to the baseline troops, if you want to put it that way. So that's one thing we ran into. So we started using programs like Signal and things like that to keep in contact with physicians, the people working at the front doors and things like that. So that would be one suggestion. I'm not sure what you guys have in place, but that's certainly a problem the hospital had run into where things would change so quickly. By the time we got it all the way down to the end user, things had changed again. So communication is going to be key with this. And secondly, as far as the steering committee, do you have anybody from the community involved, or mostly just the school district?
So that steering committee is only school district members. So we were hoping that the group that Mr. Butts was putting together that we were a part of would cover more of the community-wide, but we're waiting for that first meeting to take place. So, Laura Robinson, our director of nursing, is on the committee. She is our primary contact with the county health officials. So she relays information from them and also the changing nature of the guidance that we get. So the plans that we are hoping to build, some of it the wording will be relying on the county health department for the current best practice guidance. Some of that language will be in there. And communication, we were just talking about that today. If we're doing a good enough job keeping our entire staff updated as to the process. We let them know about the steering committee, the steps that we would go through, but now I think I'm speaking with Dr. Dare, getting the sense that it's probably time to update them to here's where we are. Not here are our plans, but here's where we are in the process. Here are the types of things we're looking at. I think we probably need to do that just to fill that sense of understanding what's going on.
We have stressed to the committee members especially that it's not our intent to wrap up a plan real quick. It's just to start those conversations and wait, kind of see as things evolve over time here. We spent the morning focused on summer school because that's coming up in a couple weeks. So we wanted to have something we could share with the community and start to get those feedback pieces from that side.
Mr. Hounsome?
Yes.
How will the survey be delivered?
So we have the link to the survey. So Gina will be pushing out through School Messenger a link to all parents in the district with the ability to fill out the survey. With some directions, I believe, that if multiple people in the household would like to take the survey, they have the ability to take it multiple times. So we will be pushing it out. That's very good. It will not be a call survey from Patron Insight. All of the responses are stored on the Patron Insight software. They will collect the responses, build a report, and get the data back out to us.
So is it possible that we would have results by our July meeting, you think, or
Yep, certainly it.
is
Certainly,
there a
yes.
chance that we could have it by the June meeting, the last?
I think that would be possible. June 11th now, it's out for 10 days. Yeah, I think that would be,
June
I
30th?
don't want to say likely because I don't know that for sure, but it would seem like it'd be very possible, yes.
And one thing I might mention, if I read that correctly, I think from the households, one device can do the survey, and then that device can't do it again. So there may have to be some different devices used, phones or computers or whatever. I think it is specific to one device per survey.
So if someone,
We'll pass that mission out.
so if someone is not a parent, but they're a community member, would you encourage them to also find the survey on our website? and
So,
fill it out?
Gina, are we posting that? I don't know.
The survey is specifically geared towards families with children in the district. And in the descriptor paragraph, it talks about taking the survey as though from the eyes of all your children together.
Yeah, great.
Okay? Thank you, Mr. Hounsey.
We have a motion to approve
Need
the
a
survey.
motion to
Yeah.
approve the survey.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion to approve the survey? No cost. Thank you, Shannon.
I'll second.
Thank you, Dr. Creedy. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried.
Thank you.
And you can get it posted. Okay. We will go on to the next item of business, which is a MSBA resolution on suspending policy to align with COVID-19.
Just a couple quick comments on that. Page 41 and 42, you'll find that resolution. This was a resolution MSBA sent out. Probably the primary purpose in this is item number 1. There is a new federal act as part of the CARES process dealing with family emergency medical leave and emergency sick leave. And we will have employees that qualify for both. We had kept everyone on employment through the end of the school year, but we do have some individuals who are not able to return to work at this time. And so these provisions will apply to them, and we'll need permission from the board to be able to utilize those federal funds and that federal process to do that. The remaining items in this are basically, in summary, saying that if there is additional federal laws that are passed as temporary measures, emergency measures, that might override our school board policies, that you're okay with that. And it's one of those where you may not really have a choice, but they like to have your permission anyway. But certainly we would communicate with you if there's anything. I'm not anticipating anything at this point, but we don't know what the future holds. The emergency acts, the Family Medical Leave Act, and those run through December 31st of this year. So this would expire when the emergency declaration expires. Any questions?
Would this be for someone who would be like at risk, they're immunosuppressed, they're a teacher and can't, okay.
Immunosuppressed, and then if they have family members or children especially who are either immunosuppressed or are unable to find daycare, childcare, those kind of things. So special circumstances, special situations, yeah. Any other
Okay.
questions on that?
Is there a motion?
So move.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carried on the MSBA resolution. Mrs. Atkinson is going to present the final fiscal year 21 budget for approval. Glad you can smile at it.
Yeah,
What else can you do, right?
it's been challenging, to say the least. Okay, so the budget fund summary can be found on pages 43 and 44 of your packet. I also, last week, shared on Google the full budget document with each of you. I've since made a few changes to the budget message, corrected a few inconsistencies there. That's been updated. It will also be posted on the district website next week. So getting started here, I just want to start by reminding the board that, like pretty much every decision that is made in the district, we always refer back to the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan goals, parent and community involvement, highly qualified staff, instructional resources, student performance, and governance. And in creating the school budget each year, there's no exception there. We have, for every decision made and the input put into the budget, we refer back to these goals. Going through the budget development process, every year we meet with the building principals and directors, review their individual budget needs and for efficiency. We also review staffing needs based on actual student enrollment. We have a central office advisory committee that's made up of teachers and support staff from each building that we meet with. We also review the current year revenues and expenditures in an effort to estimate beginning balances for the following fiscal year. So before we get too far into the budget for next year, I kind of wanted to go over where we are currently with all of the changes and the effect at the state level and what that is doing to our budget. So as of May, state revenues are down just over $642 million. That resulted in withholdings to our foundation formula payment in the month of May. They reduced the SAT, that's the state adequacy target, from 63.75 to 63.10. We also did not receive any classroom trust fund money in May. Again, classroom trust fund is the money we receive from the gaming industry. However, we did receive about 75% of our CARES Act ESSER funding. That's the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund money. We received about just over $593,000. We chose to apply that to one of our May certified staff payrolls. The other 25% of that we should receive at some point. We're waiting on a little bit more guidance. There's some other things we have to do with that for the non-public private school. Some of that money goes towards them. Okay. We are anticipating a statewide, So statewide June withholding of about $131 million. Our state foundation formula monies do not come in until the 21st of each month. I do not yet know what that means for us and how that will affect us for a June payment. I do know I've kind of calculated the total shortfall for the entire fiscal year for the foundation formula payment combined with the classroom trust fund, and we're going to be short about $856,000. We have already been told to not expect a transportation payment this month. Prop C, that's the 1% statewide sales tax. It has remained strong through May anyway. So we've had several conversations with people at DESE and phone calls with the governor. We're not sure that Prop C will remain strong. But part of the reason for that, they believe, is that Prop C sales tax is applied to groceries, to food, so other sales taxes are not applied to food. So looking to fiscal year 21 budget considerations, we do know from the governor that the state still needs to figure out how to cut $500 to $700 million from the overall state budget. Again, we're unsure at this time exactly what that means for public education. We do know that for every $50 million cut from the foundation formula, it reduces our SAT by $66. We have been told that classroom trust fund, transportation, and Prop C are all unlikely to reach the state appropriated levels. There are a few other sources of revenue we might be able to qualify for in fiscal year 21. One of those is the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund. We are still waiting to hear from DESE on if we qualify for those funds, how they're going to be made available, what types of expenditures would we have to get those. Another source would be SEMA and the County Emergency Relief CARES Act funding. Dr. Dare has already started the process of applying for the County Relief Act money. So I think next week we'll be able to apply for some reimbursements for expenditures we've already incurred this year. We again have been told by the governor to expect additional withholdings in July. Part of the reason the state is having so much trouble figuring out where their budget is, the state allowed or delayed rather the tax return filing deadline from April 15th to July 15th. So they're hopeful that by the end of July, 1st of August, they will have a better feel for where they stand and can make some more accurate decisions and advise districts a little bit better. The governor did say that he believes additional federal relief will be needed for the state in order to prevent withholdings to public education through the entirety of fiscal year 21. So, I do want to say the budget we're about to discuss for fiscal year 21 is based on assumptions and information that we've received up to about a week or two ago. Like we've talked all evening, information is changing daily, weekly. New information is being given to us. At some point, we have to draw a line and create a budget and move forward with that. We will be looking at all these budget ramifications very closely from the state perspective and how that affects us, and adjusting accordingly and keeping the board and administrators informed throughout the school year. So with that, we'll start in with next year's budget. We'll start with a few just fund definitions. School district budgets, that monies are divided into 4 funds, funds 10, 20, 30, and 40. Fund 10, as a reminder, that's the operating fund. Those are for basic food purchases, supplies, support staff salaries and benefits. Fund 20 is specifically for certificated salaries and benefits and tuition paid to other districts. Fund 30 is called our debt service fund. That fund is specifically for our bond principal and interest payments. And then we have Fund 40, and that's our capital projects fund. Those monies are set aside for items exceeding $1,000, equipment, and also for facility construction and major repairs. So looking at fiscal year 21 revenues, there are 3 major sources of revenues that the district has. That's local property tax, the state foundation formula, and Proposition C revenue. Fiscal year 21 property tax is based on an assessed valuation of just under $431 million and an operating levy of 3.3047. That is not our current operating levy. It's run through a calculation, and it's an estimated levy for next year. The debt service levy for budget is at 30 cents, and total budgeted revenues are $14.4 million. That is a decrease of $102,000 from current year. Part of that calculation included decreasing the collection rate from 96.5% to 92.5%. As you know, we are in a recession. I looked back in prior years during recession years to see what our average collection rate was, and it was roughly 92.5%. So that's what I have used in the calculation for next year. Under property tax here, I did want to make mention that thankfully our $25 million bond issue did pass last Tuesday. In addition to that, the district is committed to spending $6 million of their Fund 4 funding. That being said, we will not be increasing the debt service levy until August of 2021, therefore not affecting taxpayers until December of 2021. So moving to the state foundation formula, this does include the Classroom Trust Fund. It's based on a weighted average daily attendance of 3937 and a state adequacy target of 6308, resulting in state funding of $15.3 million. It's a budgeted decrease of $490,000 from current year. We are budgeting at 6308 SAT. Again, the appropriation is 6375. I do want to let you know that it could be as low as 6100. We're not sure yet. That's just based on conversations we've had with members of MOASBO, DESE, other experts in the state on school budget. The Classroom Trust Fund, again, as you know, casinos have only just now begun to reopen and only with limited gaming. I've budgeted for $415 per weighted ADA. The state appropriation is $428. We've been told that it could drop as low as $325. Proposition C. It's appropriated by the state at $1,049 per weighted ADA. I've budgeted based on $1,015 for budgeted revenues of $3.85 million. Again, we're doubtful that those sales will continue through the fiscal year. There's just a lot of unknowns. We're being told that it could be as low as $975. So looking at total revenues, again, these are by fund compared to last year. You can see that I've decreased the revenues about $1.4 million over current year. And then just a different view of the revenues. This is by source of funds. Same information, but again, you can see that local revenue source is our largest, with the state being second. And just, again, a graphical representation of the state revenues. Moving on to expenditures. So this shows expenditures by the highest level of function code. For those of you new to the board, the function code is the second segment of the account string, and it reflects the program for which the expenditures are being used. We've budgeted just about $52 million in expenditures. It is an increase of about $538,000 from current year. Included in this budget are a net total of 3 additional teaching positions and 5 additional paraprofessional positions. The board did approve a step increase and also movement on the salary schedule for education. They approved that on May 7th. We have expenditures by object. Object is the third segment of the account string, and it tells us where the funds are going to be used. And as you can see here, salaries and benefits make up the majority by far of our total annual operating expenditures. So in summary, we're looking at an ending operating fund balance at 15.83% at the end of next year. All of this data is based on the assumption that we're going to end the current year at 30.17%. You can tell that's a very large drop in our fund balance. That being said, that is why we have the fund balances that we do, to help us get through times just like this. Now, I do want to say that since our board policy does state that we cannot end a year with a fund balance less than 17%, we, of course, will be monitoring the situation very closely, updating the budget as needed throughout the year. If it turns out that we are actually going to end less than 17%, I assume we would need a board motion to allow that to happen. So this time, this is just budget, so I don't think that we need to do that. So I can certainly try to answer any questions over that bleak news.
Kendra, what's the lowest our fund balance can go? Isn't there a limit, like 10% or something?
17% by board policy.
What about by, like, isn't there like a state law or something like that?
Yeah.
3%.
Yeah, quite low. Hope to never get there, but yeah.
There was a time back in the 80s where historically the fund balances were 2 and 3%.
Any other questions or comments, or? I'm sure lots of concerns, but.
When I reviewed the budget, I look at previous years, and we don't spend all of what we budget, so that's a good point. And that is, that difference between our conservative budgeting and actual is $2.5–3 million different. So that's part of this, but also the numbers that you've used in the revenue, because of the fluidity of the situation, it could be worse. You're saying that,
I'm saying it could be worse.
yeah, they're saying, you've used 6,300, it could be
61.
6,100,
Correct.
which isn't a huge number when it's $250,000 or whatever.
Right.
Not whole numbers, so, and same way with the sales tax
Correct.
numbers. It all adds up. So I'm hopeful that we'll be over the 15.7%.
I'm
We'll be
hopeful
using-
we'll be well over that, but time
We
will
are
tell.
taking on, he said our expenditures were budgeted for $500,000 more, is that what you
Correct.
said? So, and we're going to end up even or down a few $100,000 this year.
This year.
So if,
We'll know more here in a few weeks on that after the,
yeah, so if that is the case, and the revenues stay the same, then I would expect us to be, in that $0 to $500,000 deficit, plus whatever we don't get from the state, and what we do get from the federal government, maybe. Help us keep our heads above water. We just have to,
we'll get through it.
we'll get through it.
Absolutely. Well, if there are no other questions or comments, I need a motion to approve the
Yeah,
budget.
is there, do I hear questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget then, if there's no questions.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the budget is passed. Thank you always, as always. Kendra, so we're going to get back to agenda. Item D is Board of Education future issues. We have a meeting scheduled last day of the fiscal year, June 30th. It's an AM meeting, but then we need to decide for meeting dates and approve those for the balance of the year. Myra has put down some potential dates: July 16th, August 13th, September 3rd and 17th, October 1 and 15, November 19, and December 17. So
Myra, I'll be unavailable if we approve the 16th of July. I will not be in town for that.
Okay.
any suggestions, or is everybody okay with these dates? My travel plans are up in the air.
Probably a lot of that. You need a motion for us to approve those?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the dates as proposed.
Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you, Sue. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carried. That'll be our plan going forward. On to old business. Happy time for long-range facility and program update.
It's like a roller coaster.
I get to follow Kendra's gloom and doom here, all right? Wanted to present you tonight with just some big picture items. This is large level discussion, but just to kind of let you know what happens from here and the process that we'll use to get started, and what the next couple of months will look like in general terms. So for certain, stop me if you have questions, but we'll talk through this. First and foremost, and I know I speak for all of you and everyone, but especially on behalf of our students and staff, just sincere gratitude and appreciation for not only the committee, the Friends of R31 2020 and the work that they did, but just the citizens of the school district for supporting us and allowing us to provide these opportunities for the kids. I can't stress that enough, and I know that you all share those sentiments. So next steps, I'm going to break this down into some pieces and trying to talk in terms of what we're looking at. So finance is of course the picture, and Kendra mentioned this earlier, but I want to reiterate. We will not look to adjust the tax levy until August of 21, which will impact the 2021 tax collection for December of 2021. So I just want to reiterate that we will not adjust the tax rate and collect taxes from the community until December of '21. Having said that, the question we have is between now and then, when do we actually issue the bonds and have those funds available to us? Kendra and Craig and I met with Lorenzo Boyd from Stiefel the other day in conference call, talked through some options. One of his main recommendations, or I guess really his main recommendation, is that we would bring pricing information on the bonds to you in September, with looking to close at the end of September. Now that is a little earlier than what we were considering at one point. We were talking about waiting even until next year to issue the bonds and starting with our planning process. So a couple of things happening, so I'll kind of walk you through that and then I'll pause if you have questions or thoughts. Currently, we are looking at historically low interest rates on municipal bonds. They have never in the history been this low. Some of them are cashing in right now at 0 to 0.25% interest. And so the unknowns that we're facing, of course, the election is a question. We don't really know what will happen there, and we don't know what the impact will be. So that's just an unknown. And then also the potential for another COVID crisis. When COVID hit in March and everything shut down, there were about 5 weeks where the municipal bond market just stopped. It ceased to exist. And certainly that has a major impact. And the reason for that was the interest rates were fluctuating so much on a day-to-day basis that investors were just literally scared to tie up the funds. Because from one day to the next, they could literally lose their investment. And so not knowing what the volatility of the market is based on that, his recommendation is that we go ahead and get them issued now. In doing so, there's a couple of things to consider there. One, we would have to build in the interest for next year. So typically our payments on these are March and September. So we would essentially eat the interest for 1 year. Typically, and there would be a reason to believe that the bonds will actually sell for more than face value. So they call that excess funds. He believes strongly that there will be enough excess funds to more than cover that interest. Conversely, if we wait, if the interest rates go up even as much as 0.5%, we stand to lose more than we do in what we're going to pay in the interest. And it's very likely that, at some point the interest rates have to go up. They can't go down. So there's the likelihood that they will go up. So he is working on some actual documentation to outline this for you in greater detail and show you the exact numbers that we're talking about in the scenarios. And we'll have that to us within the next week or two, and we will certainly pass that along to you when we get it. But I wanted to mention that to you so you can be thinking along those terms. So I'll pause there. If you have specific questions or anything, I can try to answer them, or if you have thoughts. Yep.
So he's going to look at a couple of different options as far as whether to capitalize interest or just put the coupon of the bond such that they price it over the market value?
Well, so the face value thing will likely happen regardless. So I think the options would be, do we go out in September with the knowns, or do we wait till, say, March?
Yep.
Unknowns.
But how he's going to handle the...
He will have some examples to show you how that interest flows from the excess funds, yeah, based on past performance.
When we did our project at the university, we capitalized interest on that, so they issued more bonds and what money that we were going to receive.
Right. Yeah, and he feels pretty strongly that there would be ample room to do that. But he is going to put those details on paper for you. You got questions on that piece before we... Okay. Having said that, then thinking about our design phase, typically design is about a year. Obviously, these projects are very vast and very different across the board. Some of them are much more involved. The high school project, as we've talked about in the past, will take the longest to complete. Mainly, the gym has to be completed before we abandon the other gym, the existing gym. But in talking to Mark, there are things we can do to have that where it can be, maybe even bid as 2 different projects so that it's ready to go immediately when school gets out or whatever the case may be. So we will work through those details. We're obviously going to look, there's ability to complete some smaller projects in the short term. The thing that we have to consider, and this weighs in on when we issue the bonds, is we have 3 years to substantially utilize those funds. That is state law. And that substantially utilize is kind of a gray area, so to speak. So typically they look at that as about 85% of the total bonds issued. However, there are allowances for things such as weather, unforeseen things like pandemics, those type of things. In the history, I did a little research on this. Through the history of this, the idea behind that law, the interpretation of that law is that we did not issue these bonds to sit in the bank and draw interest to make money on. And so as long as we are showing good faith effort to move forward and complete these projects, which I assure you we will do, it should not be an issue. But it does, kind of tighten the time frame just a little bit. But I talked to Mark, the architect. He feels like we're perfectly fine in that time frame, as long as we just know that that's our plan, and we will work toward that. So in speaking about Mark, we're meeting soon, actually on June the 25th. I'm going to travel up to his office. He has all of our plans and everything in place. He's going to bring his team in, and we will sit and just talk about the process, getting started with engineering and survey work, just kind of that kickoff meeting. We'll do paperwork for a few hours. Architects like paperwork, but we'll get through all that and get everything started. Over the next few weeks after that, and we're actually looking at, we've started to narrow down some dates. We're looking at that third week of July, I believe it's the week of the 16th. He will bring his team down here, and we'll bring in our stakeholders. So we'll bring in for, an hour or two at a time, we'll bring in the stakeholders for the various spaces. So, when we're talking about the gym, we'll bring in some of the coaches, and Mark Caballero is the athletic director, and we'll just talk. What do we need? What do we want? What do we have that we like that functions well? What do we have that we don't like that we can improve on? We'll bring the band and choir and theater people in and talk to them about what they want to see in those spaces. And it's a chance for them to provide input and talk about function and use and access and flow and what they need for storage and all those things. And so Mark and his team will collect all of that data and all that information, and they will use that information to start putting the formal plans together. He and I have established we're doing weekly conference calls, even if it's just to say, hey, it's this week and this is where we're at, just to make sure that we don't lose track of time and we're moving forward. But I don't anticipate that being a problem. We've stayed in close contact throughout this time. The construction phase, just speaking in general terms again, of course all of our work is required to be formally bid. There will be more than one bid process. Just in talking with Mark and looking at the nature of the projects, it would make no sense to wait and try to bid all of them all as one package. That would not serve our purposes, and it would actually cause probably more issues with our time frames and those things than it would solve. There's a couple of things that we'll try to balance in that discussion as we put that timeline together. One is what I like to refer to as the economy of scale. So I'll give you an example. As we're talking about security and safety and we're looking at replacing exterior doors, there is economy in buying more doors at once. So we will try to build these and package these around things like materials cost and those to where we're capitalizing on the savings from buying in bulk, so to speak. At the same time, we want to balance that against not making the project so large or unmanageable that we're leaving out our local contractors and subcontractors. So we will work over the next couple of weeks, couple months here probably to put together a formal timeline for you, try to prioritize some projects and bring that back to you for approval and with a good plan in place. So in summary, and then I'll take some questions, we'll work over this next month or two to establish the timelines and the workflows, talk about what we want to get started on immediately and what we need to try to get done. Of course, the financial decisions will impact that as well. Prioritize the work and the impact it will have on the buildings. We also have to consider that a lot of this work will have to take place while school is going on. So we have to think about schedules and entries and staging and all those pieces and not overwhelming the district by having too much going on at one time. But I feel like we're going to be able to manage that fine. And then our ultimate goal would just be to take that next step and move forward and get done as quickly as we can. So with that, I will open it up. Comments, questions, concerns, anything that, again, that's pretty high level, and we will have more details for you moving forward. But I wanted to just kind of give you an idea of where we are and what we're diving into. I feel like
We're a little spread out.
yeah, a little awkward back there.
A question for you, does Mark have any concerns with the design process and having so many irons in the fire at one time?
No, and we talked about that. He has actually brought on some additional staff, and I don't want to go into details because I think they're still working on a contract, but I'll share some stuff with you later about one person individually that he has specifically brought on with our projects in mind. So he asked me not to share anything, but just know that he's working toward that end. But Mark has also done enough work in the district. He already has a very good familiarity with what is there and how things were built and what the sites are. He's worked with Archer Elgin here in town and already has some of the survey work on file. And so he feels like he's in a good spot to move it forward and doesn't feel like it'll be an issue at all. Any other questions or thoughts?
It's exciting.
Yes, very much.
Exciting.
Very excited about it.
We try to tell you how many kids we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Hanson will present a summer school update as item B under old business.
All right, summer school revised plan. A couple of reminders. Our June session that's going on right now, June 1 through 26, is online at the high school. The numbers that I showed you at the end of the May have changed a bit. They've gone up, so I want to share that a little bit with you. These are the courses that we're offering at the high school now. 600 total in the bottom left, a total of 678 course selections going on this month at high school summer school. As a comparison, last summer with a combination of seated and online classes, we were at 733. So we are very close to the size of summer school that we had. One I want to talk about just a little bit, driver's education. You can see in the bottom right is 93 students. Have gone out and talked with the fine folks at Fairgrounds Chevrolet, and assuming plans can move forward, they are providing 3 cars for our driver's ed program again this year for driving to take place during the month of July, should our plans be able to move forward in that way. So I want to thank Fairgrounds for their continued support of our summer school program. They provide that service to us every year, and it's greatly appreciated.
Just to ask you a quick question
Yes.
on that. So I know the other option was for I think parents to be able to log the driving time. How's that going?
Well, so we have not had the log so far. During this month, we're doing all classroom learning during the month of June, and all of the driving will take place in July. So we've held off. Yes. So they'll either log in July, or we can do a driving with our instructors. Hopefully. We'll see how it goes. So. But the part I want to speak with you most about tonight is our July session. We have scheduled a July session from the 6th through the 31st, seated classes for students in K through 12. I want to focus a little bit on the K-8 part, which is new, which is the part that we haven't had any summer school so far. We did open an enrollment window May 28th through June 11th, so it closed earlier this evening for our enrollment. I've got these numbers up here are, I don't want to call them estimates, but they aren't cleaned numbers yet. We've got some corrections to do, and we've got some paper enrollments that didn't come in through our online enrollment that we'll need to add in. So these are close, but don't hold me to these exact numbers. But the totals that you see here, we start pretty large in kindergarten with 88 students, and then we kind of progressively move down from each grade level, as you might expect. Do a combined 7th and 8th grade program with 36 kids. And then ESY stands for Extended School Year, so that's IEP summer school for those students who have extended school year as part written into their IEP. So there's a total there of a little over 400 students. I would anticipate we'll be around 450 by the time we clean everything up and get the paper enrollments recorded. The one question that we'll probably be looking at, if we split the grade levels K-3 and keep that at Wyman, we would be looking at around 260 to 270 at Wyman. And if we kept 4 through 8 at the middle school, that would be around 160 to 175. So the question may be what we do with our third grade numbers. We may want to move them over to the middle school because of the larger space, just to spread out kids a little bit more. But I'm actually have scheduled meetings with the summer school principals tomorrow to start working on finalizing some of the details. But those are our numbers as they stand now. Now, as a reminder, these grade levels that you're seeing up here, these are grade levels the kids were in this past school year in 2019-20. So the intent of this summer school is to hit the major learning objectives taught during this year's grade level, hopefully to fill some of the gaps during the time we missed, and prepare kids for a successful school year next school year. Yes?
What will the class size be for kindergarten?
So, thank you. I had that down here. I forgot to write it down. So we are trying to keep all classes between 10 and 15 students. Typically in summer school, we'll try and go up around 20, not the pre-K kids. So these are existing kindergartners. But in all of these grade levels, we're staying under 15 for sure. And if we can get closer to 10, we're trying to stay down around that range. So we will also have instructional paraprofessionals to work with the teachers as well and to help, as I mentioned before, some of the operational considerations within summer school, getting kids to and from places. We want enough staff on place that we can always have people with students helping to monitor them and help them to get to the right places safely. So we'll also have paraprofessionals involved. So as I mentioned, that operational planning that's taking place, the district steering committee did look at a plan that I'm going to show you here in just a moment this morning and offer their feedback, input, and questions. And I'm sorry, Myra, go ahead and change to right there. They did provide their input this morning. So if you want to open up those draft guidelines, and I have draft in capital letters there. So this is not a finished product, but this is where this document stands now. I don't know if there's a plus sign there. I don't see one to make it a little larger. So this is, Dr. Dare has crafted this document to bring together the ideas that we've talked about along with the steering committee, and you can see the title, Summer School 2020 Operations Guide. We've got some information there at the top that we will push out to parents about health screening, their role in making sure that students are healthy. I'll tell you some things that we're planning and not planning, because I want to be very clear and let you guys kind of know what we're picturing here for July. We are not planning on taking the temperature of every student as they come in the building. Functionally, we don't believe that we're able to do that in any type of accurate manner. We also right now don't have the thermometers to be able to do that effectively. So we will be asking parents for their help in making sure that kids are healthy coming to school. And obviously we'll be monitoring students. If there's any visible signs of sickness, we will certainly involve the nurses at that point. But we are not planning on taking temperatures of every student. Scroll down just a little bit there, Myra. We did ask students when they signed up if they're interested in transportation. We had a number of students who said that they would need transportation to summer school, so we're working with Loretta tomorrow to build that. We do want to be clear, though, we will not be able to guarantee complete social distancing on a school bus. We will sit one family per seat together. We will try and leave spaces in between seats, but some of our special education buses, when they're seat belted in, the front seat, and people are getting on, the ability to social distance, it's not there to the fullest extent. We're going to do the best we can, but we will have students on a bus together. We will have hand sanitizer available for students. Students will be allowed to wear masks on the bus. If that's what they wish to do, we will not require it. and we will do the best we can to make sure every student respects every other student's decision on wearing a mask so that that isn't an issue. We are going to encourage parents to bring their kids to summer school for the car drop-off lane as much as possible. But over the next few days, we will be building all of the summer school bus stops that will be needed for the population, and then also take a peek at what it would mean to put some stops out further out than we have in the past. Okay? For food service, we are planning on preparing bagged meals for both breakfast and lunch and delivering those to the classroom. So we will not have a common cafeteria area where kids are eating lunch together. Those will be delivered to the classroom. Dr. Dare has been working with Beth Jett to get that going, and that breakfast is new this year. Thanks to Dr. Dare for working that out to be able to provide that morning breakfast snack to summer school for the first time. We've been able to do that. So we'll do both the breakfast and lunch during the summer school. But we'll handle all the trash getting that to kids, but that will be in the classroom. Myra, could you keep going there a little bit? Keep on going, just right there. All right, so we've got some safety instruction for students. Obviously, we'll be teaching them proper hand sanitizing soap. We'll be washing hands multiple times per day, using hand sanitizer multiple times per day. We will try to limit any type of large group gatherings in the building. So when students get there in the morning, typically we keep everyone in one location and then send them out to their classes. We will not be doing that. As they get off the bus, we will have people there helping them to get directly to their location without any type of large gatherings going on. We are still working out the water fountains. We will not have water fountains on, shared drinking water fountains in the buildings, but we are figuring out how that we can get them bottled water or some water filling stations in each building so that we could utilize the touchless water filling stations. A problematic part of this is recess. Getting kids outside to play. We can't take them outside and ask them to stand. We are going to limit the number of students who are on the playground at any one time. We will schedule recess so that we don't have the entire population out there at once, but we do want to get kids outside playing and active when the weather is nice and we can allow them to do that. They will be using the playground equipment. We believe some light cleaning along with sunlight is probably the best disinfectant that we have. But we will try to keep any type of recess supplies within a single classroom and not shared across the entire building. So Myra, keep going there, please. That may be it. So that's where we are. We've got some notes to add several things to this document from our steering committee this morning. Like I said, we presented all of this. They found some holes that we had in there. We need to figure out some internal plans for how we handle library books and library checkout within the building. We need some language about when a student has a fever, how we're going to handle that, some direct language. So this is still in draft phase and we are still adding to this. But we would like to finalize this next week, excuse me, with summer school starting July 6th is our plan. We want to get this out to parents because we want them to know what the summer school experience is going to look like. Some of their decisions on whether they want to participate in summer school could be based on the plans that we have in place. So we want to get that out in their hands. So Mark, if you can close out of that, please. But kind of I've listed our next steps there. We'll be meeting and finalizing some transportation details. Go back. Bus stops, the operational details within the building. So this plan gives a guide to how we will operate, how we actually achieve what's in this plan within the building will be the operational details, and those could look different at Wyman than they do at the middle school. We will finalize all of our staffing with teachers, paraprofessionals, and we will want to get some parent communication out. Now, this was K-8. As I mentioned, we're also planning a seated high school session. That enrollment window is still open. I don't anticipate a large amount of students. As I mentioned, we had almost 700 kids taking online classes in July, so I don't know that we will have a large seated summer school in July, but we want to offer it for those students who might need it, and we'll finalize planning for the 9 through 12 summer school and come back to you with that. So I think that, go to the next slide, Myra. So that's where we are. I'd be happy to take feedback about those plans, questions, and anything. We obviously have some things that we can add. Mr. Sells.
Yeah, it said there were several people in online physical education.
Yes.
How's that going?
So far it's going well. We ordered, Coach Shockley is teaching that class, and we modeled it after the launch, which are classes out of the Springfield Public Schools, PE classes. So we ordered activity trackers for the kids to wear. They have some assigned activities, physical activities that they do each day. They can download their activity tracker stats to show what they're doing. And then there's a lot of teaching that's going on there too. So having him in charge of it makes me feel more confident that things are going well. But so far I think it's really going fine. So we certainly want to get back in the business of face-to-face instruction and face-to-face interaction when we can. I think through all of this, we found that the students who need us the most are the ones who are missing out when we have plans this way. So we are trying to get back to some sense of normalcy the best we can right now. So that's our hope and goal.
Craig, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
So the students is one thing, but the teachers is a quite different thing. So if a teacher gets sick, they're going to be out until they're able to get tested and get back. I don't know if you guys have been in contact with the health department or the hospital, because there's different types of tests. Some are back in a week, some are back in 2 days, and it makes a big difference in regards to when that teacher can return. So that might be something you want to look into, maybe coordinating with the hospital testing site, things like that.
That's good knowledge to have. Thank you.
We've ran into that issue with some of our employees where you get tested through a commercial site, it takes a week to come back, whereas we have the ability to test them same day. So we had people out for a week, could have had them back in a day. So
That's good. As we mentioned earlier, Laura Robinson has been primarily in contact with the county health officials, but we may need to do some checking on that. So that's good information.
Okay. Other questions?
So I'll tell you also, there are some school districts in southwest Missouri doing seated summer school during the month of June. So I was asking Julie if she had heard anything from them. We haven't. So we're going to reach out and call them tomorrow with my plan to see if we can talk with someone in charge and see what lessons they've learned so far in June and anything that they can provide to help us. So, but as I said, they have seated summer school going on now, large districts. So we hope to learn from them as well. So.
Craig, I might also just add, on the food service side, with breakfast and lunch, one of the things that we'll be required to do for that grant is to offer food to the kids who are not participating in summer school. And so we're trying to finalize those details, wanting to avoid Wyman Middle School because of traffic and not wanting to mix the traffic patterns there. What Beth is actually talking about right now would be having pickup like we were doing before, but maybe out of the high school, because we're looking at a small number of seated students there, but having some form of parent pickup there where they can pick up meals in some form throughout the duration that we're in summer school. So there will be the opportunity to provide some of that for the community as well.
Okay, thank you. We don't have Pearl here with us this evening for comments, so we'll let her know she was missed, or you can let her know that she was missed. Okay. So written reports, the perpetual calendar is in there, food service report, the monthly financial reports. There's some dates to remember. Our second board meeting on June the 30th. The MSBA virtual meeting, Igniting Great Idea Summit, is June the 19th. I don't know if anybody has signed up for that. You have? I'm signed up because they have the delegate assembly that afternoon, and I may try to sign up for the day. It's virtual. It's a virtual meeting.
Yeah, I'm skeptical about that, but yeah, I'm ready.
Well, 2:45 is, so it's not going to last any longer than that. They had the sessions listed, and they're on pandemic-related stuff, so going to school, so. And then the annual conference dates in late September for our new board members. I don't know if you've heard from everybody. Margaret? Okay. Also, before we go on, Phelps County Bank is having their lemonade stands virtually, so we don't have our competition with the fire department. So, however, I looked online, so it's online, and so there's a place there for you to designate the organization that has requested you to donate, and we're not on that list. So I'm going to talk to them about that.
I have a contact.
Huh?
I have a contact, I'll get you.
Yeah, so
Okay.
They do have their T-shirts and hats and things there.
was
still
the
trying
fire
to raise-
department listed?
The fire department is listed, yes. And then all the agencies that get money
That was a ploy.
are listed, so, yes. Because we were challenged to have this competition, and I'm off the hook. But I do.
Why can't we still have it?
We can have it, but we're not going to have the fun stuff, like the
can't
ducking
have the-
booth and all that, so.
Right.
So you can get T-shirts, or you can get a do-it-yourself lemonade kit for a donation, and it'll be available for pickup that first week of July 6th on. So you will talk to,
Yeah, I can talk to her.
okay, get on there. So then we can figure out how to publicize that amongst our friends and neighbors. Okay. Who do I turn this over to now?
We have a video,
We have a video, okay.
so whoever's back, I think it's Ginger.
We're going to have lights.
So again, the leadership in this district is not about me. It's about building capacity in others, working with the Board of Education and a community that's very supportive. It starts with great teachers and a culture where we foster belonging, growth, and purpose. I always say, and I firmly believe, every day is a great day to be a Bulldog.
Hey, Dr. Zales, just from the high school, we'd just like to say congrats on your retirement. We'll miss you, but from all of us, we certainly appreciate what you've done, not only your style of leadership and and the things you've done for us, but also just your friendship through leadership. So thanks for all you do, and from all of us, thanks.
Well, Dr. Zales, I want to thank you for allowing me to grow up in Rolla Public Schools. I know I was an adult and a mother before I even joined RPS, and you've been a friend and a mentor to me since I've been in this district. You've been had a great impact on my daughter, Emily, coaching her, you and Liz coaching her, and being a great male role model for her to have in her life. You taught her so much. You've taught me so much. I wish you well on your next path in life, and I know our friendship will continue.
Hi, Dr. Zales. Thank you so much for your leadership and service to Rolla Public Schools, and I hope you really enjoy your retirement. It's well deserved.
And you have left a long-lasting legacy at the Rolla Public Schools. And we will always remember the phrase, "It's ready to move on." It has been a pleasure to work with you. We will miss you. We wish you all the best. Enjoy your retirement. It's definitely well deserved.
Congratulations!
The list of things you've taught me is really long, so I picked my top 3 that I strive to incorporate into my daily life. First, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. Second, gratitude changes everything. And third, most importantly, if you're making those tough decisions with the best interest of kids in your heart, you're probably doing the right thing. So thank you for always making those hard decisions with the best interest of all of us in your heart, for always looking to see the good, and for always working to do the right thing.
Dr. Zales,
I'm not real sure how I even put into words the impact that you've had on me and the things that I've learned from being able to work with you for these past years. That's as an educator, what it means to be a good communicator, and really what it means to be a leader who operates with compassion for others and keeping the best for everyone in mind. And I don't know how I would sum that up in a short video other than to say thank you for everything you've done for this district, and just know that your impact here has become part of our culture that will live on for many years past when all of us are here. While I will miss all of those things, I know that we will be in touch. I know that we will talk, and I'll reach out. But I'm not sure who replaces expanding my musical horizons into bands that I've never heard of, hitting me with obscure movie questions that I don't know how many people have even seen these movies, and just expanding my knowledge of what it means to be an interesting person. So I will miss that. I will miss you. But we thank you for everything you've done. It's a great day to be a Bulldog.
Hey, thank you. Good thing. Yeah, but I could see Julie wiping her eyes, and she hadn't been here. All right. Other comments from board members in Aaron's final meeting?
I've said less at this meeting than I have in any meeting in the last year.
Is he not obligated to June 30th at 7 a.m.? What?
I'm on vacation. We have more vacation days than there were days to be able to take them, particularly with the pandemic. And my daughter said that this last year counts as 2 years.
That's
so,
right. I think you're right.
No, it's been a pleasure. I was sitting here thinking this whole meeting's been an out-of-body experience because I haven't had any part in it whatsoever. And that's really what life's going to be for you all after it's done. But you always spend your time perpetually moving forward. And I've been pushing reflection to the side. Excuse me. Thinking it'll never catch up with me, and it just did. So thank you. I feel worse about this than I do about Kendra's budget. I've also had 3 glasses of tea and a half bottle of water, and I have to pee. Thank you all very much. I've been blessed to be superintendent and administrator for 26 years. It's been great.
Well, you've always exhibited the highest integrity and personal ethics. You've been an excellent leader for the district. I was here when you came on board, so I've been here your whole term, and that's fantastic. You've been a good communicator. You've managed the district well. Leave it in a good position. Leave the bad budget for Kendra. So you've also been a leader in your profession statewide, and that's appreciated, I'm sure, by people all over the state.
Yeah, I just did my last, I spent 10 years as chairman of the board of the retirement system. That's been a fast 10 years too, so that concluded Tuesday. So they're all friends, just like you, so we can, change the nature of the relationship, and I can come up there and sit where Tony is and just badger Craig and Kyle and Julie and ask questions. I kidded the retirement people that I'll just want to know when the cost of living increase is going. Forever a bulldog.
Well, I've enjoyed working with you for over the last 3 years. You're very impressive. When I was at the Missouri School Board Association meeting and they found out that you were retiring, they looked at me and said, good luck finding a replacement. Everyone else is down here and Aaron's up here. So, very proud that for them to say that of you.
Just glad you didn't bring my mom.
Well, we tried to get your kids here.
Who?
Your kids. They had some things going on, so we're glad to have Liz here. So as a board, it was really hard to find a way to, honor Dr. Zales. So, sorry, where'd that come from? Anybody else want to talk?
I can talk for a little bit. Aaron, I didn't know you very well before I joined the board. I've heard your name mentioned, and I may have met you out in public from time to time. Actually, I knew your wife a lot better than I knew you. She taught my kids.
Which is best.
And so you live in the same neighborhood as the Lindsays did, and that's really how I got to know you before I joined the board. And so I said I kind of knew you in passing, but my 2 years on the board so far, getting to know you, your integrity, your compassion, your leadership skills, are off the charts, just fantastic. And I feel I've learned a lot from you just being here the last 2 years. I mean, I've gone to school forever, but I've learned a lot from your example, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll piggyback on what Brian said, just about, obviously your leadership and consensus building is amazing, but also the culture you've built. Because you can have good leaders that can't build a challenging, growing, thriving culture, and I feel blessed that my family's been a part of this district.
Well, I worked as a teacher with you for 29 years, and I'm sad that I won't be able to have you on the board to work with. So, but good luck in retirement. It is fun. And getting that check every month is really nice too.
Yeah, you two are receiving checks from the,
Yeah.
You were my assistant principal at the middle school there. That was the good days.
How to deal with hard employees by working with you.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just kidding.
Well, we decided to nominate you for an award. It's called the Life Changer of the Year. It's an award that celebrates those, good grief, in education who make a significant difference in the lives of students. And you do, students of all ages. There is a press version release that will come at some point that will highlight you and our community. And there's also a commentary piece, which I put in, I think is in the front of your packets. So folks who know you can certainly chime in on what we submitted.
I've got a comment. We had kind of an interesting dynamic with ties back to Quincy and different people, then I'm on the board, and honestly never thought of it in this way, but you always said, I have one boss, and that's the board. And it's very humbling to be the boss of your mentor. And that's how I feel about you.
Thank you. Guess that is. I can't have anything else to say.
It's a great day to be a bulldog. Good way to end it. Thank you for all those years of service, Aaron. And Liz for sharing him with us. Is there anything else?
Do you remember one thing Don Brown told me when you came? Don, you guys know Don Brown. Some of you do. Been principal for years, and he said, you'll like him. He's not like me.
Oh,
It's okay.
well, I lived with Don the first week
Yeah.
here because Liz, we didn't have a house yet, so, yeah. Every time I drive by his place on Salem Avenue, we talk quite often. I remember sleeping in an upstairs bedroom for, it seems not too awful long ago, but about pretty fast.
Right. So I guess the next item is a motion to adjourn. There's nothing else?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned.
Gina, did you want to grab maybe one more picture with Dr. Zales and Liz?
I made notes in mine. Hey, Myra?
Oh, and the new one. Oh.
Oh, okay.
We always struggle to get everybody together.
I thought, hey, Myra, can I just take this out? I made notes in it.
Hello.
Oh, I didn't even look at those.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, my name's Mark Sells. And you know cells are the most important thing, because you can't live without cells.
I didn't even look at those.
And I taught biology for oh yeah, no, I said that all the time, all the time.
Get a picture of the new board.
Yes.
There you go, if I can get that back in
But
there.
you need to keep the binder, don't you?
You can either take it and bring it back when you come and or you can take it and keep the binder.
I'll just, yeah, you take that.
All right.
And you'll get me a password and stuff for the online training?
All right, I think we're going to get another picture real quick of the new.
Okay.
For June 19th.
Well, for any of it, because I went to some of the virtual training, said you had to be.
I gotta register you, and once I do that, they'll send
Gotcha.
everything.
All right.
Hi, my name is Julie Williams. I'm the Assistant Superintendent. I'm so pleased to be here.
Where are you from?
I am leaving West Plains after 14 years doing his job to come to your job.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.